Hey guys, AllyZieMage here, and welcome to another Japanese learning video. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the tips that I think are the most useful when you're trying to learn Japanese, especially if you're starting out and you haven't progressed that far through the language yet. So if you see my channel a lot, you notice that I use a lot of apps on my phone. And that's because I can't actually enroll in a Japanese class. Well, not at least at my college, it's not offered there. So this video is going to be very oriented towards if you are self-teaching yourself, if you can't enroll in a class, or if you're waiting to be able to start school and you want to get ahead a little. So the app that I primarily use is Duolingo. And it just came out, so it's still in beta, and there are still a few little things here and there that aren't going so well, but all in all, it's a pretty good idea. But if you don't want to use an app, even though Duolingo is free and I kind of suggest it, there are many other ways to learn, and there's also many things that you should do even if you are using an app. Another app I use is Obenkyo, which is also very useful because it has it separated by the JLPT levels, which is even more useful, especially if you're trying to actually go abroad to Japan and get a job, then being able to say, oh yeah, I scored at this level of the JLPT test, then that'll be even more impressive on your resume. But the first tip that I have is for when you're starting out, learn hiragana, katakana, and kanji all at the same time. And that's something that I really like about Duolingo is that it has it teaching all of it together. You start out learning the hiragana alphabet, and then like a couple lessons later, they're throwing kanji at you, and it's nice. When I first started learning Japanese when I was like 13, I wasn't learning kanji because kanji is this giant scary thing. And most people are terrified by it. I still am, actually. But it's something that you really, really need to know if you're going to speak Japanese or read anything in Japanese or go to Japan. Another thing, though, going along the lines of learning kanji, is that you should have supplementary materials that teach you things outside of what the app will teach you. Because, for example, Duolingo isn't teaching you, it doesn't explain anything. It just gives you the word, and it gives you the meaning. And I kind of don't like that because kanji has the on and the on and the kun reading, I believe, is what they're called. And there is a big difference between them, and I'm kind of wondering how they're going to teach that difference in Duolingo. So I actually have a kanji dictionary that I can look up words in and see what it is. Obenkyo actually gives you the on and the kun readings and the differences. But this also goes into particles, because particles is a big thing in Japanese. It's generally something that trips up most people who are learning the language, at least from the people that I've talked to. It really trips me up, because, like, no is a possessive, and then ni is directional, I believe, sometimes. It gets really confusing, because they all can be used for many, many different things. And, like, for, placing who you're speaking about, the subject, you can use ga or wa, and that's also really confusing. And if you're going to learn outside of a classroom, and you need to use more than just one thing, basically. So I also have grammar books that I can flip through and look at and figure out what the hell it is that's going on and why these particles are being used, because Duolingo doesn't teach, like, it teaches you the particles, but like you don't know why they're in the sentence. If I'd never seen Japanese before, I would be so confused at why there's this ni between waking up and what time it is. I'd just be like, okay, maybe that's woe. See, I can't even like pull it out. That's another thing about using apps, is that you need a way to talk to people and actually communicate with what you're doing, because Duolingo, it makes it very easy to just kind of piece it together without fully understanding what's going on. I think other learning tools like Memrise or Obenkyo do that as well, because it's just like, oh hey, here this is, now translate it. And if you can pick out a couple of words, you can pick out the rest of the meaning. But talking, or even just writing to someone else as like a pen pal, you can't exactly do that. You need to know what it is you're putting into the sentence, else it might sound very, very incorrect. So that's why supplementary material is very necessary when learning a language by yourself instead of just using one thing. Like, even if you have a textbook, I would still say to use other things, especially for communicating with others. There's wonderful websites that I've used One is Lang 8. You can get pen pals, and you guys can talk to each other. Sometimes you guys can even Skype if the other person or you are willing to get on FaceCam with each other, or even just voice chat. There's also italki, which is more of a teaching tool than just a communication one. I believe there are pen pal type deals on there, but it has real teachers who can charge you per hour, per half hour for a lesson, and they also have volunteers who have shown language proficiency, but they might not have a teaching degree, and they tend to be even cheaper to use. So like a lot of the times it's like $10 to $20 for a lesson with one of those guys for an hour. And honestly, I think that's actually pretty good because they're willing to teach you. Like, they are on there to teach. So one of the issues I've come across with Lang 8 is trying to figure out what language you guys get to talk in that day. If you guys are going to focus on English because most of the time, or whatever your native language is, the other person will be wanting to talk in that while you're wanting to talk in their native language, and it doesn't really go down well because then you're just like trying to be polite, being like, oh no, today we can talk in English, and they're going to be like, oh no, today we can talk in Japanese, because you guys are both going to try and be polite because that's the reasonable thing to do. Or the opposite side of the spectrum, both of you guys are going to be demanding of like, oh no, we're talking in Japanese today, or oh no, we're talking in English today. And italki kind of takes that out of there because they are there to teach. They will be teaching you Japanese. They aren't going to be trying to learn English from you because they also have shown proficiency or fluency in English, which is also very useful. And then another thing, going back to the whole writing system, I just kind of skipped over this. I have my notes, but I'm not really looking at them. Is that once you learn kanji and katakana and hiragana, don't ever, or not even the kanji, as long as you've learned hiragana, do not ever use romanji again when you're learning Japanese, because that will pull you back. You have to have the constant figures in front of you, the characters, and if you are supplementing it with romanji, you're making it too easy on yourself, and you're going to keep using that as a crutch instead of fully learning the writing systems. So as much as you can as possible, keep everything in hiragana, katakana, and kanji. For example, most phones, you can switch your keyboard. You can have it so that you can like flip back and forth between keyboards, and you can write in a Japanese keyboard. It'll generally come up with suggestions too, so it makes it a little easy on you too. And then probably one of the last things that I want to like hit hard on is you need to practice daily. Like, not practicing daily will hurt you incredibly. And that's always an issue that I've had, is not being able to get myself to practice every single day, especially when you're self-teaching. That makes it so extremely hard because you have to find the motivation and the time to do it yourself versus being forced to go to a classroom with a teacher who will be making you do this. It takes a lot of self-discipline. And if you don't have that self-discipline, I'm not going to tell you that you can't do it, but it's going to be so much harder for you to always remember what you've learned. I've been trying to learn Japanese for almost 7 years now, and I can pick out pieces of conversations that I hear because I do watch a lot of Japanese vloggers and they'll talk in Japanese sometimes. I can pick out bits and pieces, but I can't fluently listen to anything, let alone talk. I cannot say nearly the number of things I can actually understand. And that's very common in learning languages in general. But if you don't have the discipline to do it every single day, then you're just going to have a very broken understanding of what happens around you. So it's something that takes a lot of discipline and that you have to do every single day. If possible, choose a time that every single day at that time you will sit down and do Japanese for 10 minutes, for 30 minutes, for an hour, however long you want to do Japanese that day. Even if you don't feel like doing it, just don't learn anything new then. Just review things that you do already know. Duolingo has this thing that each time, and you're going to see this in the last part of the video, each time you complete a task, the bar will sometimes go down because you're not using that skill anymore. So you can go back and review that skill. And I was doing that today. I was doing a lot of review, and I realized just how much I don't remember of things I did 3 days ago. So it just kind of shows the importance of you must practice this daily if you want to keep your proficiency up and if you want to keep progressing and improving. Otherwise, you're just going to remember bits and pieces and not the entire picture, which hopefully the end goal is to understand the entire picture and know what is going on. So here I'm going to just kind of show some things about Duolingo. This is my practice today, this morning that I did, and yeah, I'm just going to explain through. You're going to see that I made a lot of mistakes because, again, I was doing a review and I didn't remember it, unfortunately. But you're also going to see the mechanics and how it actually works in the app and what the app is like. So let's get started on that. So here we just have all the different lessons that are included in the Duolingo Japanese lesson. You can see it kind of goes on for quite a bit, but I think it's a bit shorter than some of the other languages that I've seen on here, but that might just be because it is very much new. And there is an Olympic category because the Olympics are going to be held there somewhat soon.
Nani desu ka?
So this is the setup that is pretty usual.
どれを飲みますか?
If you get a sentence, you can pick and choose which words you're trying to put in there, and it'll tell you if you are correct or if you're wrong.
じゃあ、パンをください.
And then here I struggled remembering what words are. And then this is an example of what happens when you get it wrong, and this is also me forgetting what the word for meat is.
魚と野菜食べ
So yeah, see, that's how it does for an error.
魚を食べます. あれとあれをください.
And then sometimes it has these where it's a block and you're supposed to say what that is. Like this again.
食べ
And then it also has a pair feature where it gives you all the options and you can kind of wean down your options if you don't know what one of them is.
も肉と魚は食べません.
And then it also has a choice one where it gives you a bunch of
食べ
different options that you're supposed to choose from.
はぬ
And a lot of the times that 4-block one is how they introduce new words, but they'll also use pictures. You might see that in one of the later lessons, I believe.
水
So here you can see that there are some bars near the gold ones that are down, and that's because I need to relearn those. And then this is going to be a new lesson that I'll be working on the restaurant category.
ゆ
So this is teaching me new katakana that I haven't come across yet before.
に
And it always gives you the sound for you to try and base it off of.
1 2す食べお茶
And this is how they're introducing new words to me right now.
レストランメニューですか
And then if you don't know what a word is, you can always select it and it will tell you a translation. And then here's Ally failing to spell the word restaurant. And it does get kind of picky with word order, unfortunately. And then this is showing you just how early they're teaching kanji.
1100
Because I haven't even been taught the full katakana alphabet yet. And then yeah, that shows pretty much all of the main features of Duolingo and what you have going on here. Alright, that's all for this Japanese learning language video. That was a strange title. Have yourself a magical day, and I shall see you next time. Bye.